Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Wolf, and I serve as the Executive Director of the World Food Travel Association based in Portland, Oregon. And I am delighted to welcome you today to our second annual Online Food Travel Summit. The first online summit took place in 2015, and we took a couple years off just to kind of gauge the temperature in the market, and people seemed to really like that, so we brought it back, and we're pleased to announce that we'll be doing this every year henceforth. It's a great way to save the time and cost of travel, and you get a lot of good information for a very, very little price, and it comes right to your computer for you, so you can't really beat that. Anyway, today I am delighted to present to you Veruska Anconitano. I hope I said that right, or close enough to it. Veruska is an award-winning writer, and that's kind of an all-encompassing term, but she has won so many awards for so many things that she's written that I don't think there's enough room on a slide to put them all. And also Veruska was a winner of our 2018 FoodTreX Awards for Best Food Travel Writer last year. Completely just independently of everything else, her application really just stood out. So congratulations on that. Now, Veruska is an interesting person. Her favorite foods are Japanese and pizza, and hopefully not together at the same time. Her favorite outdoor activity is hiking and climbing, and apparently we're supposed to ask her about the precipice in Norway. And she is known for saying, if you smile at life, life will smile back at you. And she is currently reading Altruism by Mathieu Ricard. So, without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Veruska. And Veruska, the meeting is yours.
Great. Hello, everyone. Let me share my screen as first thing, so you can see what we are talking about today. I hope you can hear me well. Eric, can you hear me? So I think
yes,
you can hear me perfectly.
Everything's perfect.
Perfect. So let me start, and I want to welcome everybody to this session where I'm going to give you a few input on influencers and digital for your strategy. So it's not going to be a comprehensive session or a comprehensive lesson. It's just a few inputs in case you are planning your next activity or your next food travel campaign, just something that you should think about in these days. And Eric just introduced me. I'm a freelance food travel journalist and blogger, and I'm also an online marketing manager, and I'm behind some of the food travel campaign you can see for many destinations or many tour operators, but I'm also one of the so-called influencers, which is kind of strange when you think of yourself in that way. But yeah, sometimes I help destinations, tour operators, brands, hotels in spreading word about themselves when it comes to food travel. And just let me remind you that every time you need a question or you have a question, you can hold it back till the end of this session where I will host a FAQ, or you can just write me an email. You can find my address pretty much everywhere in all the slides. By the way, it's veruska@anconitano.com. So let me start what I'm going to talk about in this small session. It's basically something that you probably are all familiar with. What is food tourism, benefits of food tourism, how to plan a food tourism marketing campaign, and without further ado, the role of influencers and how to choose them, especially how to choose them and why to choose some of them, not all of them. 3 practical examples from 3 different countries who have chosen 3 different approaches to these influencers things. And then the end will be Q&A. So I'm ready to start with the first thing. What is food tourism? Food tourism is an experiential trip to a gastronomic region for recreational or entertainment purposes. This is a definition given by Holland Sharples in 2003, which seems super old, but it's still actual and still it is even more important today, where food travel and food tourism is not more just tourism and going away, but it's also staying in our city, in our country, and experience something different, experience something related to our heritage, and make sure that our food heritage is passed through our kids, and the tourists as well. So make sure that everything we know about ourselves is passed through the others via food as well. So it's not just traveling to experience something different, is also staying in our city. It's a sort of staycation, just to discover what our country, our city, our region can offer in terms of food. Can be a food truck, can be how to make, I don't know, I'm Italian, so the first thing that comes in my mind is how to make pizza the old way, and so on. Food tourism brings a lot of benefits to destinations, to cities, to city councils, to pretty much everybody, operators, everyone. Of course, more visitors arrivals, which basically means more sales, and different types of sales. We always think food tourism bring more sales in terms of bookings to hotels or to restaurants, but it's more than that. It's how many people go to a supermarket, for example, and buy even just a bottle of water. It's more sales for the city, for the country. How many people buy vegetables on a market, which brings even more sales to the producer. So it's when we think food tourism brings more sales, it's not just hotels and restaurants or car rental and stuff like that. It's more overall all the people in some way involved in the production line, in the tourism line, are in some way impacted by food tourism and at a different level. It also brings much more media coverage, and these days it's even more true. These days, if we read the newspaper, if we read online magazines, blogs, everything, everybody talks about food. Food is the main driver for tourism worldwide. For example, for Ireland, there's been an increase of more than 50% of people are coming to Ireland to experience its food. And food, it's the main driver for many, many regions. Like, I think Italy, but I think also the UK, Spain, Greece, every country is experiencing this new industry is actually blooming, and it's getting more attention, and this means more media coverage at a different level. It can be a YouTuber, it can be a blog, it can be a magazine, it can be a newspaper. There's just much more media coverage than the past. If a destination can bring on the table food, and not just traditional food, but can actually improve the offers in food, it has a new competitive advantage over its competitors. And this is the case, for example, between Spain and Portugal. The two regions are competing pretty much head ahead, because their food is so similar, but they are bringing on the table different variations, regional variations, and the two regions are blooming in terms of how many tourists are going both in Spain and in Portugal to taste the food. So food can be a huge vehicle for driving a new unique selling proposition to tourists, but also to, and when I say tourists, I mean also professional business tourists. And it's basically, I consider it very related to the last point, the fact that food tourism brings money to government, to authorities. The more people you can enter a country, the more money the country will get. And if a country knows how to use this money, they can become it's like a loop. A tourist bring money, government use this money to refine their tourism expectation, and more tourists come, so it's a loop. And the more you focus on food tourism, and the more you help your local community. If a local community sees the benefit of what they do in terms of what they produce, how they produce things, why they produce things, and they are put in a condition of, they have been given visibility in front of international tourists, the more they are aware, and the more they are proud of what they want. They are proud of what they are doing, and they want to do it more. It's a case of, like, for example, I was thinking in Iceland, for example, people involved in the cod production, and the working process of the cod are seeing an increasement in appreciation from tourists coming from all over the world, and they now want to make sure that this production will go on for ages, for years, while a few years ago they were thinking to let it go. So that's how food tourism can help a community to keep going, even if economical conditions are not so great. That's why destinations, but also private people, private companies, tour operator, or hotels, or everybody else has to think to use food as a let's say as a vehicle for marketing, because marketing can help food travel business in different ways, can revitalize and diversify tourism. We all know people travel to see things, but now people travel to experience things. And food is the main and the most important experience for people when traveling. It's something that we all know, that when we come back from a holiday, the only thing we remember is if we had a bad experience, and also if we had great food or bad food. Food is always the first thing that comes in mind to people when they think to their last holiday or last trip, city break, whatever. And marketing in the food travel business, if well executed, can also have a positive impact on the local heritage and on the local economic development. That's because, as I was saying, the moment you start putting yourself in front of international audience, you put your heritage, you put your story, you put also your family, you put the story of your country under the lights. And if marketing can highlight this heritage, that's one of the most important things that it should do today, to make sure that traditions stay there and don't disappear. This means also that marketing in food travel business can help change the primary sector, and give the people who works in the primary sector, like, for example, fishermen or butcher or farmers, a different how do I say, give them a different sense, a different way of thinking about their job. Today, a lot of destinations are working with local butchers, for example, or local farmers, to highlight the local produce. I'm thinking, for example, to Germany and the strategy with milk. So farmers have been let's say, incorporated into the marketing effort of the tourism board, and as a way to show tourists, but also local people, how milk is made in Germany, and why they should buy local milk from Germany. This also, of course, marketing can help to create in the creation of a sense of unity. Food is basically what makes a place different from another, and what makes people feeling that they are experiencing something unique and something that's not enjoyable, and that's something that they cannot find anywhere else in the world. I don't want to go to Rome and eat an hot dog, and I don't want to go to, I don't know, New York and eat bibimbap. But I want to go to Rome and eat pasta, and I want to go to New York and probably eat pizza because it's something related to the city. And the most important thing that food and marketing do together, well, what marketing does in the food travel business, food allows to create a long-term narrative. Food gives people a sense of unicity, gives places a sense of unicity, and this sense of unicity is something that allows people to create stories around a place. Every time you talk about with someone, if you think to your experience, and if you talk with someone and someone who just came back from a holiday, they say that they have been to this amazing place or to that they visited this part, but then there is always something related to food. Food is the only way we have to, not the only way, but it's one of the most important way we have to define a place, to define its people, to define how attached to tradition is a place. Who are the food travelers today, and why are they important when we plan a food marketing online campaign before dig into the influencers thing? I have divided the travelers in two categories: the food lovers and the foodies, which the names can seem very similar, but in reality they are a little bit different. Food lovers, it's basically each and every single one of us. It's 93% of travelers are basically all the travelers, because it's basically all the people who have just went on a holiday or just on their city, and in the past 12 months have eaten outside, have decided to participate in a food or beverage experience, which can be, for example, a food tour, a wine tasting, I don't know, food tasting or something like that. So
Veruska,
yeah.
Can I interrupt just a second? We're getting some chat messages that people are having trouble seeing your whole slide. Could you put it into slideshow mode?
Yeah, should be. Is it better?
There we go. Much better.
Okay.
Thank you
Sorry
so much.
about that.
Thank you.
So let me go back here. Okay. So basically they spend 25% of their travel budget on food and beverage, but they are not just travelers, they are also people staying in their city, in their country. So basically each and every single of us can be considered food lovers, unless you just buy pre-packed food and that's it. Then there are the foodies, which are actually just 10%, well, I say just 10% of the total world tourism market, but that 10% is actually count for a lot of people. It's those kind of people that plan their trips partially or totally in order to taste the cuisine of a place, or they want to do to experience food or do activities related to gastronomy. And when we think of food travel campaign, online campaign, which group, social group should we target? Of course, it's easy to target this one because it's basically, as I said, it's every single and each of us. So we are all food lovers. But the goal is to target these guys and make sure that they find the information they are looking for, that they are, in some cases, that they are basically that they can find what they are looking for, but most of all that they will be given everything to think of a destination or in terms of their next destination for food. So the main goal for a food destination is to target the foodies, the 10% of the total world tourism market, to make sure they start considering as a potential travel destination, of course, the destination who is planning the campaign. Let's talk about these famous influencers. Who is an influencer? The influencer, basically, it's this probably overrated word, because in some ways, like the food lovers, we are all influencers. We are all able as humans to change and in some way affect the opinion of people we are surrounded by, and also change our opinions based on what people around us, our peers, suggest us. But the main difference between the majority of us and the so-called influencers is that these guys have the ability, have built a community of people they don't know personally. Most of the time they don't know personally, but they have created a community of people that trust their recommendation and choose their destination, their trips based on this guy's recommendation, choose where to eat based on this guy's recommendation. And in this way, these guys are the one to look out to drive some sort of return on investment on the new digital campaign when it comes to food travel. Let me just give you a few stats on influencers. These are just very brief stats because there are so many stats on these influencing things that it's hard to choose. But just so you know, as for Nielsen, 70% of consumers, and we are not talking about millennials or old guys or women or men, it's just in general, 70% of consumers are influenced by the recommendation of their peers in buying decisions. And when we say in buying decisions, it means, it doesn't mean only what to buy, but also where to go, where to eat, also what to eat, why going there, which kind of holiday do they want, which kind of food holiday do they want. 88% of consumers say they trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations. And this is the key when we talk about influencers. They are seen not just like journalists, they are seen like real peers. They are seen like parents, like friends, mostly like friends, like sisters, like brothers. So that's why they trust online reviews written mostly by influencers of people, very well-known people, as much as personal recommendation. And this brings us to the next point. 74% of consumers rely on social networks to guide their purchase decisions. And this is even more true when we think of travel and food travel. If we have a look at Instagram, we see a bunch of pictures all taken in the same places, from the same angle, probably same light, sometimes same dresses or same kind of poses, just because on social networks someone has decided that this is the trend, so everybody starts following the trend. And the reason why they do this is because people trust this guy, the influencers, which are basically the reason why certain things happen online. Why you should work with digital influencers? Given the stats I've given you now and the definition of influencers, it's easy to understand. Influencers, good influencers, are able to change people's perception about something or a place because they are seen as trusted. They have earned their reputation and they don't want to lose it in front of their followers and in front of their also clients. So when you work with a digital influencer or digital influencers, you should have in mind that what they can and they should bring to your table is these three things. Extend your content reach. Influencers have a way to work on different channels. There are the guys that only work on social media, the guys that only work on blogs, others work on social media and on blogs, others have their own line of clothing and stuff. But in some extent, you pay one and you get five, just to give it in terms of numbers and in terms of very, very super easy way of saying. If throughout your website you can reach just your audience, throughout digital influencers you can reach your target audience and their target audience, and their target audience is spread throughout multiple channels, so automatically they reach way more people than the ones you reach with your own outlet. And if we think in terms of different comparison between traditional advertising and digital advertising throughout influencers, this is even more important. When we talk about traditional advertising, it's usually one article and that's it, one billboard and that's it. But there's never connection between the brand and the people who are actually putting up the billboard or writing the article. In the case of digital influencers, there's a real connection, because these guys, the influencers, if they are good influencers, they don't want to compromise, and they will do their best, unless you fail completely in choosing them, to make sure that your message is delivered to the right people in the right way. This means they help you increase your brand trust. If I, as an influencer, recommend a destination, it's because I've been there, I've experienced the destination, and I know my follower and I know my follower trust me when it comes to food recommendation. I'm actually giving my bless to the destination and increase in some way the brand trust. So it's not just me trusting the brand, but also my followers. Let's say at least 15-20% of my followers will think of going to that destination because they trust what I say and they trust what the destination have to offer to them. Influencers can also get your message actioned. Let's say sometimes destinations, but also, well, I say destinations because it's like this institutional thing, but also tour operator, brands, food tour, everybody working, hotels, everybody working in the food travel industry has the same problem. They are stuck with bureaucracy. Influencers are not. So if you brand can give them a brief and say, I want to deliver this XX message to your follower, and they will do their best with no limits at all. You can find a YouTuber, if you are like, I don't know, a hiking country like Norway, and you want to promote your country and says, come and I want you, Norway is offering you the best places where you can hike and jump from a, I don't know, precipice. But you cannot say this because you can have problem with the law, since you are, I don't know, under bureaucracy, or you have some laws to respect. Influencers doesn't. They just do something and recommend their followers to do the same thing. So basically, you can get your message actioned at a different level if you trust and use the right influencers. But there are 3 different types of influencers, but among these 3, there's one that it's really, really, really powerful. And I'm sure you are all thinking to these guys, these girls, the celebrity influencers, which are not actually. They are powerful, but they are too big and they are not seen as trustable by their followers. They are seen like models, like role models, but not people to trust when it comes to recommendations, because they are like marketing. They have marketing team and they work on a different level. Under the celebrity, after the celebrity, there are the macro influencers, which are all the guys ranging from 500,000 followers to 250,000 followers. These guys have built a massive community, but they are powerful, and they are moving from this category to this. So they are in this land in the middle, where people don't know if they can trust really them, or they are just trying to get a way to jump from being macro to being celebrity. So they are super hard to work with in terms of conversion. That's for the reason above. Basically, they have moved from being micro to being macro, but then people see them like see their way of doing like an attempt to move into the celebrity influencer status. The most powerful and influential influencers on the market today are the micro influencers. So the people ranging from 1,000 followers to 500,000 followers. No, sorry with the number. 100,000 followers. And these are the micro influencers, the people who are actually today they seem to have a very small numbers compared to especially the macro, and they seem not to have the power they effectively have. They are trustable, and many stats says that their engagement is 60% higher than the macro influencers, and they also offer another benefit. They are underpriced because they are not in this category, so they have not many followers, so they don't have to charge you for a lot of money, or they don't have to ask you for a lot of things when you plan a campaign with them. But on the other side, they have a very strong community of followers who follows them because they not just trust them, but because they are interested in the topic they talk about. They are usually super specialized in something specific. So you can have someone specialized, for example, in donuts in New York. So this guy can have, for example, 20,000 followers, but all of them are super interested in what he says and what he does, where he goes to eat his donuts, and why he goes there. There can be someone, there's a girl actually, she only writes about cactus. So she only covers cactus things on her social media, and I mean cactus like the plants. And she has 2,000 followers, and her engagement on Instagram is super crazy because those 2,000 people wants to know what she does, how she takes care of the cactus, where she buys them, and so on. Same goes for every other niche. The less follower an influencer has, the less followers he has, and the more he or she is focused on a specific niche, especially in food and travel, this is a winning influencers when it comes to planning a food travel or a digital campaign. So how do you work with influencers and plan your online campaign? Given what I've told you now, basically, so far, you have your idea of what you want to promote, and you know there are 3 types of influencers, and you have to choose among these 3 groups. So it's not the main thing to understand is there must be a switch between how we were used to plan a campaign, a food travel campaign, before digital, and how we plan now. Before digital, it was everything together. put everything together, send to a newspaper, prepare some graphic, and that's it. Or invite 2 or 3 journalists to visit a destination, and then hopefully they will produce an article for you. On digital, with digital, everything changes, because the moment you go to an influencer and you choose to work with these guys, with these people, you have to give them specific guidelines. You have to choose them based on what you want to achieve. If you are trying, for example, to promote a new a new trend in your city, your destination, and you want to promote a new trend in your city, there's this new trend, a lot of new bakeries baking bread in a special way. So you have to bring into the city, influencers interested in bread, interested in food, interested in different experiences, and interested perhaps also in promoting a different way of traveling to their followers. So you have to go to them and first of all identify your overall marketing campaign and which goal you want to reach, because if you are promoting something specific, you have to have in mind precisely what you want to achieve and which is your target market. Sometimes unfortunately, when you work with influencers, the majority of the people don't think about their target audience. They see the numbers, but behind the numbers, there are always people. So you always need to think, is this person talking to children which will never travel to my place and experience what I want to promote? Or is she talking with the group of people I want to talk about, so she's or he is perfect for my campaign? So the best thing and the main thing to do after you have identified your overall campaign is to identify your goal and your target market and your target audience. Once you have done this, there's another big, massive thing to do, which is change the way you think about your return on something. So you don't have to talk about return on investment anymore, because you are investing basically in something intangible, something you cannot touch. And you have to switch to return on objective. So basically, if in the past we were used to think, okay, I have $1,000 to spend on this campaign, and if I plan these actions, I'm sure, 100% sure, that I will get at least $2,000 in return, because I'm planning a campaign of a national newspaper, and this campaign will bring me total number of bookings. I'm planning this billboard there, and I know for sure that I will get top number of bookings or top number interested in my thing. Today, digital doesn't allow you to do this anymore unless you go for traditional advertising on digital, which is banner, paid advertising, or paid on Google, or whatever it's paid. If you go for influencers, you have to think of your new strategy and think of return on objective, which is also return on goal, rather than return on investment. So if you spend 1,000, you could also not make the 10,000, the $1,000 you have spent, but you have probably built your reputation in front of a different audience, which will choose your destination, your tour operator, your hotel, your whatever in the food travel business on a later stage, just because they have seen something on an influencer channel. Once you have done all these big thing, it's time to choose your influencers, and big thing, measure them. I hope everybody's still there and it's not too bored by all these numbers and stuff. So we are at the the core of this presentation, I think, which is how to choose the right influencers, ambassadors for your campaign. When you work with influencers, the first thing you have to think is that they are not working for you, they are working with you. So they want, and you have to give them guidelines, specific goal to reach. But also you have to think they will do their best to work in a way that you will see some return, but nothing can be measured in the traditional way. This is something I always stretch when I do presentation or I work with people in the food tourism. Don't expect immediate results when you work with influencers, because the result can build up over the time, and you can see unexpected results after 6 months, after a month, after 1 year, and you can get surprised. But no, it's hard to see very short-term results when you work with people online. But how do you to choose the right people for your campaign? We always think, let's see how many followers this person has. But it's not just the number of followers. I've already explained to you, it's the engagement rate. And if these followers are truly interested in what she says or he says, in what these people promote, and if they are aligned with the message these people send. So never base your decision on followers and likes, but on the general engagement. General engagement means a lot of things. Means how many comments these people have on their social media, how many emails they receive, what's how they approach people. So engagement requires a little bit more of digging compared to just followers and likes. Followers and likes are kind of easy to spot. Engagement requires a little bit of digging, and you should use softwares, but also monitor the guys you want to work with for quite a long time. The second element to evaluate is the platforms. When I say platforms, today everything is measured on social media, but the reality is that social media are so fast that all the content disappear. All the content disappear in I think Facebook says that 30 seconds is the maximum that people says the content on the platform. So it's never just a question and a fact of social media. You always should work with people who can provide you with multiple platforms, and the main one has to be the blog, or at least something where they write something. So that's because content stay in a blog in the same way they stay inside a magazine for the entire life. They never disappear. People can always search on Google and find an article, while it's hard for people to go on social media and search. They just like what they see. So a blog, an influencer that provides you with more than one platform and more than just social media is definitely one influencer to consider for your campaign. And this opens up like this giant hole, but this is not the situation where to talk about this. But yeah, when you consider blog, people with a blog, you should consider the number of the blog, how many people. This is subject of another discussion, but always take into account not just the social media, but also a blog or a magazine or other platforms where they contribute just as a way to spread the word out about your campaign. Accountability and approachability are two nice terms to define the bad people you don't want to work with. Accountability is the same thing we always need to look for when we work with someone or with something. There, if I think there's accountability is how much a person is responsible when she travels or when he writes something. So it's like how much and how available it is in the respect to the contract and the agreement you have with them. And this is kind of very hard to measure because you never know how people react when you work until you work with them. But there's always a way to discover if they are accountable or not. And also approachability is the same thing. If when you approach these people, they are not very enthusiastic, if they are not very friendly, they just don't know what they want, well, stay away from them, because probably you'll have a lot of problem even in terms of accountability. Quality of content is actually it. I've put it here, but it should be here on top of everything. You can have an influencer can have amazing pictures and then doesn't know if she or he doesn't know how to write something, your campaign could be totally screwed up, because a picture can say a lot of things, but if a picture alone cannot communicate very much about a destination, especially if it's in partnership with someone or something. So checking the quality of content, how it's written, and if it's consistent, if it's not too marketing oriented and so on, is quintessential for choosing your influencers ambassadors. And same is for placement of content, our content distributed among his or her followers, how she or he promotes himself, herself, and the content, how many people work on the platform, how many people work with this person. And of course, there's the question related to the industry and the knowledge of the destination or the food tour of the food operator, the tour operator, and so on. Sometimes we think, people in this industry think, I want this person because she seems very, very, very famous, and I want to work with this kind of people. But in reality, is that sometimes you need to cut out these kind of people, the very famous people, and as I told you, focus on the smallest one, but very focused, and the people into the niche. If you want to promote beer, Belgian beer, you should go not just to a beer influencers, but probably you should start by looking for the Belgian beer expert in the influencer marketing. So by looking at hashtag used, by looking at place on Instagram and stuff like that, you should always start your search by looking at people who knows what you want to promote, and in some way that are aligned with your brand. And this also means they have a unique selling proposition, and this means they are focused and very, very interested audience that follows them because they know what they are talking about, and they have something different to say compared to the tons of other influencers in the same area. A unique selling proposition can be, for example, a person only talking about gluten-free places where you can have gluten-free pizza, or places where you can get veggie Buddha bowl, or people only talking about a particular kind of drinks, a particular kind of beer. Everything that qualify this kind of people as unique in selling themselves, and for this reason knowledgeable, and for this reason probably perfect for your goal, to reach your goal. The last one is more like what you should do VET, which means monitor them, measure them. And when I say measure, I don't mean measure how many conversion, how many people book throughout them, how many people request information. Measure how many people are actually interested in what these people are saying during the campaign. Because sometimes an influencer can drag a lot of comments, that's true, but can also drag a lot of bad comments. If they are not aligned with the goal of the destination, or they don't know anything about the industry, they usually drag comments, but they usually are useless comments or bad comments. And this is a good way to measure the strength of an influencer and choose this person, and also choose if you want to work with them again in the future. And this is also the best way to decide to work with a person. Go scout their social platform and see what they have done in the past, and you usually realize they have worked on something with some other destination or any other industry related business, and you can see what they have what's the quality of what they have produced, what's the quality of the comment, the engagement, if they have done something spectacular or just average. So measure them before, during, and after the campaign is the best way to work with influencers. So just to wrap it up, this is how it should work. So everything starts from research and discovery, which will bring us to the second point, strategy and plan, which means set up your goals, get some plan, so you can you know what you want and how to reach hopefully the goal you have in your mind. Identify your influencers and engage with them. Campaign management starts from the moment you engage with the influencers. It's not just the execution, it's everything before, during, and after the campaign. And the after include the measurement with the report on how many people they have reached, how many comments, the quality of the picture, the quality of the content, if they have delivered the message you want them to deliver, if they have agreed, they have performed everything that you have agreed upon. And the sixth, which I think it's one of the most difficult parts, is it says maintain, but it's mostly more like decide if you want to maintain a relation or not with these people. And if you want to maintain a relation with these people you have chosen here, then it means your choice was right and you have followed the entire plan the best way. I have to be honest, the majority of the cases the relation interrupts, but there are very, very, very interesting examples I'm showing you now that shows the difference, that shows you that it's possible to maintain a relation and strengthen a relation with influencers and actually make them a part of your marketing team. So the three examples I want to talk about, and I'm kind of short with time, so I'm gonna be trying to wrap it up very quickly. It's Local Heroes by Fawlty Ireland. Fawlty Ireland is the tourism board of Ireland. They have chosen a panel of more than 20 people, Irish people and people living in Ireland, to represent Ireland in the country and abroad. They have chosen influencers in different niches, chefs, bloggers, journalists, but also producers, teachers, pretty much they have butchers, farmers, there's pretty much everything. And the local heroes are the people that engage with Fawlty Ireland, that work in tourism campaigns at a different level, that are part actually of the marketing effort of Fawlty Ireland. And this is a model that works because these guys are basically knows everything about what they talk about. They are really knowledgeable, and they produce values both for Faulty Ireland and for tourists coming to Ireland. Same for Visit Iceland. Visit Iceland had a big problem a few years ago with the cod. I already told you something briefly earlier. And they didn't know how to market the cod, the Icelandic cod, which is actually super important for the country. So they have decided to pick up a few international testimonials from the main country they want to target. So they have a couple of chefs from Italy, a couple of chefs from Spain, a couple of chefs from Portugal, and then they have one blogger from Italy, one blogger from Spain, blogger/influencers from Spain, from Portugal, and from the UK. And regularly they host trips, they host workshop, and they do activities that keep them engaged, and they are basically the face of the Icelandic code outside of Iceland. Then the third one has used a different strategy, totally different strategy. The Consorzio Pecorino Toscano is it's a private one, and a couple of years ago they hosted some sort of influencers trip, and they wanted to promote the pecorino and the prosciutto toscano. What did they do was going behind everything that I've told you earlier, and they have chosen influencers with very, very low numbers, but all focused just on Italian food abroad. So there were influencers. Influencers have been considered not just the Instagrammers, YouTubers, bloggers, but also journalists, but also producers, also like women at home, but the people potentially women buying pecorino and prosciutto in the UK and so on. And they brought them everywhere in Tuscany to show them how the consortium works, and especially what they did was even more interesting. They decided to promote their products and promote Tuscany overall. So it wasn't just the promotion of pecorino and prosciutto, but it was also the promotion of Tuscany overall. And this led to with some of these guys, they are still cooperating today, and they are working on something new for them, with them, pretty much every day. So these are three different examples. These guys are all focused on local to deliver international messages. They wanted international testimonials to represent Iceland abroad, and they went for a mix of people, influencers from different areas, just to promote not just the product but also the land. So just to wrap it up, influencers marketing is not an exact science, but the main thing when you work with influencers is to identify which ones are the best for your niche, and make sure they work for you and with you in the promotion of your brand. And only if you can identify the best influencers in your niche, which doesn't mean they have to have huge numbers, you can get results, mostly on a long term, never or almost never on a very short term. And I actually don't know if we have time, but I have FAQ time if someone has any question. Eric, let me know if there's any question for me.
Sure. Yeah, Veruska, there are a couple questions. That was fantastic. Thank you very much. And we can go a little over our allotted time. There's no session after this. So as long as people are happy to stay on, we can continue. The first question was, can you explain ROO further? Most people understand what ROI is, but ROO was new. Can you explain that?
Yeah, what is it's called the ROO, which means return on objective, which means you don't set a the main thing when you adopt the ROO approach is to cut the budget. So you only know how much are you spending, and you know which is the goal you want to reach by spending that budget. But when you go and measure the results, you actually don't measure the monetary, how much money you have made after you have spent that amount. But if you have reached your goal, your objective, and the objective is usually related to the brand identity. So how much your brand has, how much visibility your brand got, how visible your brand was, how much brand recognition in terms if there's been a change in how people perceive your brand and how people are perceiving it after and during the campaign. So return on investment is basically I spend X and I know I want to have Z in return. In this case, in terms of money. When you adopt the return on objective approach, you know you're spending X, but you don't measure anything in terms of money, just in terms of brand recognition.
Super.
I don't know if it's clear enough.
Yeah, no, that was excellent. Thank you. Our next question, you mentioned that we have to market to the 10%. The 10% of total world tourism is food. How do we find that 10% to reach to?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Hard to answer, to be honest, because that 10% is usually the people who are based on statistics and stuff. That 10% today is most composed by people who works in this industry. So people in some ways spying in a good way on what other countries are doing, other companies are doing. The average travelers is more in the 93% of travelers, the people, all of us travelers. So it is really hard to identify the 10% today. And a good way is to get in touch with the companies who provide this kind of very high level experience, because they are the only one who actually knows who is the travelers, who are the travelers who have booked with them, and which usually it's like when you think about the luxury travelers, you don't know who they are. But if you go to the tour operator specialized in luxury travel, they know who they are and they can give you more information about that. So it's very experimental, and I don't think at the moment there are many stats on this kind of travelers, but I could be wrong. So it's very Epicurean.
I could add some to that as well. I think it was interesting to hear you divide food lovers and foodies. We are starting to use the word food lover a lot more. And this just happened independently of what you were saying. A lot of people don't like the word foodie, even though we might call them a foodie and we think they're a foodie. They think a foodie is something else. And so the definition of foodie means different things to different people. But if you just call someone a food lover, you're a lot safer.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, in the 93% you were saying, we've always thought that you should cast the net as wide as possible. And, it's like Seth Godin's book, Tribe. You got to find your tribe. Cast your net and your tribe will find you. And in the 10% that you mentioned of foodies, which are, the true confirmed food lovers, this is not too far away from what we're looking at as gourmet travelers. And many of the people on the session today are aware of the psychoculinary profiling research that our association has done and is continuing to do. And we now know that destinations have their own profiles as well. But gourmet is one of those 13 profiles. And in the year 2010, there were only 9% of respondents had a primary gourmet psychoculinary profile. and that increased in 2016 to 18%. And we think that the reason for the increase was largely due to the role of the media, all of the chef shows and
Yeah.
competitions and things that have been on television. Now, people can have up to 3 profiles, but once you take gourmet away, it falls down dramatically from 18% to like 6% for the next one. So the number of people who are interested in gourmet experiences is extremely small. And we see a lot of people, well, we have, through our education programs, we work with a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or students who have just graduated, and everyone seems to want to go after the rich people, but they're the smallest number of
Yeah, that's
travelers.
true.
So if everyone goes after the rich travelers, then there's no one else that's left. So I think unless you truly have an exclusive and elite experience, I would recommend that people go for the 93%.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's just like usually when you plan an online campaign, you want to reach to the stars. And but sometimes well, most of the time, at least from my experience and what I've been working and things I'm doing, you reach for the stars, but then you actually kind of include also the rest of the things. So it's reaching for the stars, but including also the 93%, because they are always they are a big part, probably the biggest part. So the goal is always reach for the stars, but it's super hard, and it's not easy, and it's not even feasible if you think in terms of budget for destination or companies to reach to these people. But yeah, there's always this thing, I want to go for the rich because they bring money.
It's interesting. I mean, you say reach for the stars, and that speaks to the aspiration that many
Exactly.
consumers have, regardless of the product. Look at
Yeah.
smartphones.
Yeah,
Everyone aspires to having an iPhone 10, but not everyone can afford it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so for our last question here, and this is one that I have observed as well, so thank you, Sarna, for this question. And I'm not just talking about Poland, I've seen this in other countries too. In my country, Poland, there are excellent bloggers who blog about Polish cuisine, food trends in various regions, and so on, in Polish only. However, I've talked to them about blogging in English, but they don't seem to be interested. Has anyone else experienced that in their markets? I would love to work with them if they would be willing to blog in English, but have a hard time convincing them there's a real need.
Yeah, this is, well, in Europe, this happens pretty much everywhere. Italians only blog in Italian, Spanish only blog in Spanish, French only in French, and so on. That's because it's a cultural thing. First of all, in most of the countries, we are not, I am Italian, and we don't do English at school. So the majority of the people don't speak English very well, and this is a huge problem because we don't know, the majority of people don't know how to write in English, and when they do, they are competing with a larger amount of people coming from English-speaking countries, and this put them like on an edge, and it's like having the fear of not doing well, the same way they do if they speak and they write in their own language. So I think it's a cultural thing, and it's also super hard to change. It's a trend pretty much everywhere in Europe, but I don't think it's super bad, to be honest, because foreigners coming to Poland or to France or to Italy, reading good blogs in Polish, Italian, French, Spanish, whatever, they can always use translators to translate what they are reading, and this also keep genuinity in the bloggers, because they don't feel the pressure of writing, and if they write in a language that it's not theirs, they can not they fear, and usually they cannot express themselves the way they can express in their own language, and this affects their writing skills, their credibility, and sometimes probably the majority, 99% of their followers are not from English speaking countries, so why they should put much effort in writing in English. So it's a very, very, very sensitive topic, but I think it's cultural more than personal. It's how badly we are used to speak English well, and how unfortunately we don't speak and don't write English pretty much at all in Europe.
See, I think people, businesses or destinations, everyone's always looking for new customers. And then there was the era when everyone thought the Chinese were a panacea. Oh, bring the Chinese, they'll come and solve all of our economic problems. And, Poland is a fascinating culinary destination, and one that I think is completely unexpected by a large portion of the world. Finland, Korea, South Africa, Brazil. There's so many places have fascinating stories to tell, but if you have great bloggers in these places who are writing in their own language, then people in other languages aren't going to even hear about that to use Google Translate to get the content in their own language. So the issue is that you have an article that's written in Portuguese or Russian or Korean, but the SEO is not there.
Exactly, that's another thing.
So if I'm writing in Polish, which I would never be doing because I don't speak Polish, but if I'm writing in Polish, I'm in Poland writing in Polish, and that's going to be indexed by all the search engines in Polish, but there's no English words to match with that. So no English speaker is ever going to see what you write.
Yeah. But I agree. But I think I think it's hard also to change your mind, and it first of all it requires a lot of effort if it's not your own language. Then if you have a basis of followers, of readers from your own country, you don't want to spend time building a different community, because you're competing with them way more people speaking and writing way better than you.
Yeah.
Third, I also think this can be an advantage for some from a certain point of view. I think Greece has a program in this sense. They have, I think Athens, I'm not sure, they are working with 4 or 5 local bloggers. They work they don't speak English, and basically they have decided to go like Ireland to promote local people to the international visitors without using English. So these are advice from our local expert, and I think it's the destination that translates their content or something like that. So the bloggers, actually the content creators, influencers, whatever they are not put into the condition of translating anything, but the destination is doing this for them. So there's always a way. If a blogger, I think personally, if a blogger is great and a destination want to promote the content of a Polish blogger for the English-speaking tourists or whatever, there's always a way to work around and take advantage of the knowledge of this person. Even just by saying, okay, produce the content for us and we'll translate not just on your blog, but we will use your content on our platform. There are ways around it, but I think it's hard. It's super hard to ask people to write in there if they don't speak and write, for this reason mainly, the not native thing, and also the competition, which is a lot way harder and not. Yeah. Usually bloggers, we think bloggers have like people only do this, but the majority of the bloggers, I'm not sure if it's the stats says 90 or 95% worldwide don't do blogging full time, so it's like a hobby for them, and the ones who are good, very good, knowledgeable, but do only as a hobby, they don't want to do anything else if they don't see any results, tangible results in a short time.
Veruska, I just want to ask one last question. I know that we're going late, but this is a great session. You were talking about the micro influencers and how valuable they can be, and I think that one of the problems that I see a lot is how to find these micro influencers. You know, people look in different platforms, and it's you know, if I'm trying to do something in Australia and I'm trying to find microbloggers, you know, how do you do that? And I've noticed that there are some platforms out there that they're kind of aggregators of influencers, and you can pay a fee and you can search the platforms and find people by keyword. And we tried it once and it didn't work too well. How do you identify those micro influencers?
The basic thing, which is also the easiest one, is go online and look for hashtag. So, for example, let me give you a proper example. You want to do a campaign in New Zealand, so and it's start from Instagram, which is today everybody has Instagram everywhere. So you go on Instagram and you start from looking at the table, the tag. Place, so you can see the location, search for your location, and from there it breaks you down the locations in New Zealand, and from there you have a list of hashtags. So first thing first, locations, and then the best thing is always hashtags. So find one hashtag and start scraping and start searching for the people, and it's a very, very long process, but another thing that works very well is Pinterest. Pinterest is not just it's not a social media, it's more like a search engine. So if you go there and start looking for bloggers from on the search bar, bloggers from Norway, it will give you a list of people writing about Norway, and from there you have to dig in and search look at their posts and see how many followers they have, what they write about, and stuff like that. Usually Instagram works better if you don't have budget, because it's much more easy to find micro influencers using hashtags. But I usually find the platforms easy to use and also effective. There are a couple good ones I usually use, and I found them. I don't know if I can give the name.
Yeah, of course, please.
One is BuzzHiga, BuzzHiga.
BuzzHi.
Yeah.
HI what?
HIGH.
BuzzHi.
Yeah, and another one is Group High, which is even better. And it's written GROUP HIGH. And I think you also have like a free trial on first 25 researchers, something like that.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Well, we've gone for about an hour and a half, but wow. Veruska, you are a wealth of knowledge. I have always appreciated greatly what you do for the association as a member of our board of advisors, and you have certainly not disappointed today with your wealth of knowledge. So thank you again for everything.
Thank you everyone for listening. I hope it's been a little bit useful and you had some input. And if you have questions or requests, you can write me to my personal email, or also write to the association if you want more information about the association and what we can do. So yeah.
Lovely. Thank you, Veruska.
Thank you so much.